This is happiness, to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Mood Prep. My name is Dave Nixon. Today I want to sort of pull apart and spend a bit of time talking about problems, obviously solutions to said problems, but one of the biggest things I remember hearing years and years ago, I don't know what audio I was listening to at the time, but it referred to this really important concept, is that, I remember them saying, I can't remember what it was, that you're bigger than than your problems. And excuse me, it probably took me a little while to really understand what that was saying and what that really meant, but by the time I got around to it, it sort of gauged how often I looked at my problems as these massive, almost insurmountable things that were like immovable, that were so difficult. How could I ever get through this? And then I suppose the more problems that I ended up having and the more I got through them, the better I was at realizing that no matter what happens, I'll usually always get through my problems. And then I was like, right, me in my human form, in my existence, I'm bigger than my problems. Right, that makes sense. And then people go, what about things that, might become dire or, cancerous or whatever? And it's like, well, you're, from a spiritual level, you're still bigger than your problems. Like, this can keep going and going and going, but I don't mean it to be a personalized individual conversation. I'm bringing this forward for the broad audience and the problems that we face every single day, which differ for every single person, but truly being able to see these problems that for me I would just get stuck in, and I'd just almost be focused on, like, fuck, how am I going to deal with this? But this is always, what about this? And just almost being worst case scenario thinking for a very long time. And it's still a pattern that I have now, is that I look at something and I'm still what's called a mismatcher. I look for difference. I look for the problems. I look for the potentiality of the issues that are going to come up. It doesn't mean I don't think we should do something about it, or that it can't be, there's no hope. But what I'm saying is that that's just how I view it. And if I'm not careful, if I'm not conscious and aware, I let this worst case scenario filter everything that I look at. And so when I get stuck in this space of going, fuck, what am I going to do? This is such a big mountain. I start to remember that me as a human being have gone through all of the problems that I've faced to now. All of them. So have you. We both have. Everything that's come our way, we've gotten over. Sometimes we forget to put that notch on our belt, right? We just remember the chips on our shoulders, but you got to remember the notches on your belt. You got to remember the notches on your belt, because what that allows you to do is to make sure that you tighten your fucking belt and you roll your sleeves up and you get to work and you focus on the solution. It's so crucial that the longer we spend time staring at the issue, the bigger the issue is, the smaller we feel. Recognize the issue. Recognize the problem. Recognize the problem space. Not just the problem, but the space which within the problem sits. Often we'll try and correct a problem, but we're actually just correcting the symptom. We're not addressing the problem. We want to address the problem space. And once we understand what that is, then we focus on the solution. And there's an analogy. It's like race car drivers. They teach them that as soon as they spin out, they don't look at the wall. They shouldn't look at the wall. They should look at where they want to go. And it was like studies done on this, is that if they looked at the wall, they ended up hitting the wall 9 times out of 10. If they looked away from the wall, they ended up getting out of it 9 times out of 10. It's fascinating, because where you focus, your energy will go. We already know this. It's fucking plastered on memes all over Instagram. But what you give energy to will grow. The good, the bad, the positive, the negative, right? Optimism, pessimism, whatever you give energy to will grow. And it's not about just being positive all the time. It's not about just being good, just being happy, just being optimistic all the time, because that's imbalanced. It's about being centered and not seeing judgment either way, but recognizing a problem and a difficulty for what it is, and then looking at the necessary steps to overcome that. Don't look at the length of time, because the time will pass anyway. How long will it take? It's just like, well, probably a while. But we don't have a while. All we have is now. So let's focus on now. Let's see what we can do in this moment. It comes back to the question of what could you do that you would do? Because I spoke to this with a client today. Like, we brought up an issue of some sort. And I go, what do you want to do with that? And I'm like, well, seriously. I'm like, because, I don't think this of her, but some people don't want to get rid of their problems because it aids to their story of their suffering. It aids to the idea of their victimhood. It feeds all of that. So why would they want to get rid of something that allows them to feel important? Because if they didn't have this issue, they wouldn't feel important to anyone. So it's one of the reasons why we keep issues around us. It's one of the reasons why we may even subconsciously keep ourselves a victim, because it gives us a certain level of importance. It's the same way where some people would cheat in like little workouts. People cheat workouts. It's because they feel if they're not on the leaderboard somewhere that they're not important. It's not about cheating. It's about feeling important. Cheating's the fucking symptom. And when we can start to really see things different like that all these things that we call problems are actually just symptoms of a deeper problem, we can actually start to address the problem space, not just the problem / symptom. So, it comes down to this idea is that if we're bigger than the problem, it doesn't, and we don't have the resources, that's fine, but it's not the lack of resources that's our issue. It's our lack of resourcefulness. We need to get MacGyver on this shit. We need to think of things differently. We need to be able to be honest with ourselves, look at the brutal facts, the brutal facts, and keep hope. It's so crucial. And our ability to be honest with ourselves, and this is where it's dangerous if we're just optimistic all the time. Because then we don't get to have this brutal honesty with ourselves that will allow us to see the problem space for what it is and then address it. Like, I'm pretty sure most people that go to hell are optimistic, right? And I don't necessarily think hell exists, just to clarify, but the metaphor of hell, right? So what I'm getting at there, it's like, if we're just optimistic, we're borderline naive. If we're choosing to apply optimism whilst looking at the brutal facts, then that's where we become dangerous. And I mean that in the fucking best part of the word. It comes back to that concept. And make this man, woman, I don't care how you take this. It's got nothing to do with gender. But a good man is not a harmless man. A good man is a very, very dangerous man that has an under voluntary control, which means he's able to, and she's able to, whatever, look at the situation. They're able to look at the brutal facts. And they're able to hold hope for the long game, because they know that this game is won or lost long term, because there is a series of games in life. There's not just one game, there's a series of games. And it's about rocking up and playing your best every single fucking opportunity you get. And sometimes you're going to lose, sometimes you're going to win. But if you look at life like that, more often than not, you'll get better, you'll gain experience, and you'll win more games than you lose. And then over time, you become the person that's able to share that wisdom with other people. But you've got to rock up. You've got to hold optimism, but you also got to make sure that you're also holding this idea of the brutal facts are exactly what they are. Where is this symptom stemming from? What is the true problem here? And then what are the resources that I have within me to be able to seek out the resources I need for this problem? So don't ever forget, you're bigger than your problems. Team, that's it. I'm out. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you haven't already, make sure you jump on Mood Prep Online. You can just search it on Facebook. The group is free. We can continue the conversation in there. As always, if you found this podcast beneficial, it would mean the world to me if you would pass it on to someone else that maybe is going through some problems at the moment, and you think you could give them a friendly reminder that they are bigger than their problems. Otherwise, as always, until tomorrow, peace and pizza. Kick today in the dick. Slay the dragon. I'll see you soon.
To be everything at once, be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.